Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's conference callback session. I am super excited. I, of course, love all of our CalSPRO presenters, but I have admired this team for a long time. And so I'm really excited that they are going to be joining us today. The session today is called Boost Productivity by Streamlining Your Production Processes. If you are a systems geek like me and you really like to try to find a better way to do things in your office, then you are definitely going to love this session. I'm going to read you a little bit more about the session and tell you about who on the Solano County Office of Education team is joining us today. It's going to be about how to simplify your workflow. And of course, that's going to help reduce our stress with easy to use, cost effective project management tool. The tool will help you keep track of communications, assets, project type, team assignments, deadlines, and production pipelines. It can also provide data on staff workloads, the types of work being produced, the departments you're supporting, and the initiatives you're driving. And remember, folks, it is not good enough just to do a great job. We also need to be collecting data so that we are reporting out all of that invisible work that you all are doing all the time. They're also going to discuss a simple process for running smooth pre-production meetings to clarify project goals, target audiences, creative direction, deliverables, and timelines. It is their hope, and I have every confidence that you'll walk away with more clarity, better focus, and the data you need to back up your resource requests like staffing, budget, equipment, and more. Your presenters today will be Ernie Hawley, the Digital Media Manager at Solano County Office of Ed, Johanna Borrelli, the Executive Assistant for Community Engagement and Communications, and Karin Sturgis, the Graphic Media and Community Outreach Specialist, also at Solano County Office of Ed, and Jennifer Leonard, the Assistant Superintendent of Communications, Community Engagement, and Emergency Management. That's quite the title, Jennifer.
It's education, so you have to have 3 jobs smashed into one.
Yeah, well, at least you
I'm
actually
sure
get it in
everyone
your,
on the call can relate to that.
at least it's actually giving you credit in the title for all the things.
Yes, well, I
All
never
right,
actually say the whole title, but thank
and
you.
I'm going to share one more thing that Jennifer's actually sick at home and decided that she was going to follow through today so that she and her team could bring this amazing webinar to you all. So with that, I will turn it over to Jennifer. Take it away.
Okay, thanks, Trinette. I'm going to share my screen here. And we'll get started. Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here to present with you along with my colleagues. I've said for a long time, sometimes the difference between a good communicator and a great communicator is just a longer list of things you wouldn't do again, meaning that communication is a learning process. And we're happy to share with you some of our lessons learned and some of our processes in hopes that it is helpful. There's something in there that helps you in your day-to-day work and workflows. So get started. First, we just wanted to kind of see who is with us today. That we know that sometimes you're a one-person communications team. Sometimes you're not even a full-time communication person. You are a secretary and doing comms. And so we're just wondering if you guys can put in the chat your name, your role, your organizations, how many people you work with in your organization in communications, and then maybe what are some of the most pressing challenges with project management that you're finding. And we'll try to kind of speak to some of those specifically. I'll give you guys a minute to answer. Okay, Kelly's a one-person show at Center Joint USD. Thanks, Kelly. Good to see you, by the way. Rebecca is a communication specialist, a one-man band. 2-person team from Ventura, 3 people at Oceanside. Thanks for being here. Okay, team of 1, and some of the challenges are too many campaigns and overlapping projects from every department. My challenge is everything is important, then nothing is. Yes, I think most people on the call could relate to that. One-time assistant, hardworking volunteers. We got, you're using 7-person team. That's great. Okay, so we're kind of mixed across the board. I'm trying to look through some of the challenges. Wearing a lot of hats in the district in Northern California, 2-person team. Was laid off and consulting. Yeah, we're seeing budget cuts across the state. That's tough. I'm glad you landed in consulting. And then processes and showing the invisible work. Okay, so that gives us a good sense, kind of what we thought today. We're going to speak to that. Most of my career has been as a one-man band, doing the photography and the copywriting and the social media posts and the press releases and everything in between. And I found a database that kind of helped me justify the arguments for more resources along the way to grow a team. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Let's see why my slides don't want it. There we go. So we're going to talk about optimizing our workflow, the project management process and collaborating with your teams, and then collecting and leveraging the data today. We are also, some of us at SCO are beginning the process of getting our APR. So we are working the RPI process into our work. So we'll reference that today. If you don't know, RPI stands for Research Planning, Implementation, and Evaluation. So when you hear RPI, that's what we're referring to. By no means are we experts. We are learning the RPI process. So if you have your APR and you want to weigh in, we've got something different or maybe off, we'd love to learn from you and we'd love your feedback at the end. So this is just kind of showing our learning process and how we're integrating RPI into our processes. So to get started, we look at our tools, right? What do we use to kind of manage a centralized system to manage our PR projects? How are we tracking communications? The huge struggle for me was, as a one-person band, was asset management. Where is that email with that picture? Or where's the information that I needed for that press release? And I was spending more time trying to hunt down the email to find the assets than I was actually doing the work. And so I needed a tool to keep everything in one place. And so team assignments, deadlines, asset management, tracking communication is a huge advantage in saving time. So you're not doing detective work, you're actually doing the work that you are an expert in. It also gives us some insight into our staff workloads. To be able to say, wow, I had no idea we were doing Ernie was doing so much audio visual support for all the teams. That's like half of his job, and being able to really understand those types of things and the types of work that we're doing, and then using your tool to collect data. And along the way, if there's something else, please put in the chat. If you have a question or you have another thought or something that you see a project management tool can support you in, just throw it in the chat. Ernie's going to monitor it, and we're happy to bring it up. Okay, so some of our key benefits of a tool is the organization, the efficiency. We talked about the collaboration that it allows between groups, whether you're a 7-person team, a 1-person show that has to have approval from the superintendent, or Spanish translation somewhere else. And then the data to inform decision-making. So when you're getting started, or when you're thinking about enhancing some of the questions that came up for us was really making sure that you're collaborating with your leadership. about this process, your finance team and your tech team. We're going to talk about our database. One of the things, for example, the tool that we're going to look at that we use integrates email, but when we sat down with IT and looked at it, they said, this is great, this is great, this is great. I have a concern about firewall protection here. So we don't use that feature on the database. So you want to make sure you're not going rogue in your organization and just collaborating with your team in advance so you're not investing in something that maybe you have to walk back. Ask yourself or map out what information do you want to know about your work, the invisible work, right? How are you, maybe that's the question. How do I show my invisible work? Or, and what data do I need to collect to show those pieces? And so, for example, we started breaking down social media posts maybe into two different pieces. It's one thing to create the art for something, and it's another thing to create the text and copy and post it, right? And those will be maybe two different people. And so we map those out separately to kind of just keep track of different aspects of maybe one project. How much proofing is happening, right? How much proofreading, how much time are we spending? So think about like the different pieces of that invisible work as the process goes along, and what data you need to collect to show that, and who's working on the projects, right? We talked about, who are you sending it to? Even when you're a one-person band, usually somebody has to approve what you're posting or proofread it or translate it. And then, as we saw in the chat, how are we prioritizing? I would guess that most of us on this call, if not all of us, have more work requests than we could possibly get done, right? And so how do we have a mechanism to sit down with our superintendent and say, okay, help me prioritize here. Here's what's coming in. Because just because people ask for work doesn't necessarily mean that's the right work for us to be doing, right? And so this gives us some sort of database, gives you a tool to kind of look at those things as a team, look at your production pipeline, and assess those things. And then last, think about starting small and establishing a proof of concept, pilot a platform or a program. And that could be as simple as a Google form that translates into a Google sheet on the back end that you're just working off a spreadsheet, and practicing your fields and figuring out what information you want on your form and how that works. And then scale up for there and figure out, your process if you don't want to invest a whole lot upfront into software or something else. And then when you're choosing your platform, you want to make sure you can change your fields and database, because if you're anything like us, your process and your needs are going to change as you change, and your understanding is going to change, and the things you want to know is going to change. And so make sure you have a database that you can just add another column and another field, and that's a real simple process. And does it allow you to see what the status of a project is? So you can remember, oh, that's with this person for Spanish translation, or that's with the superintendent secretary for approval, or you can kind of, see where things are at a glance. And then think about how are you implementing RPI integration if you're working in that realm and want to do that improvement science kind of process in your work. And most importantly for us, and Johanna's going to speak to this a little bit later, I'm sure we are all exploring AI, and it's kind of a game changer. It's definitely been a game changer for us in our workflows. And so how does AI integrate as another employee in your team, right? If you can't hire somebody, can you use AI to support those kind of processes as well? So the thing that we'll talk about, some of our learning moments, an outline or a manual of our process was really helpful for people to kind of follow the process, make sure we were all on the same page about how we were doing it. If you're a one-person band, then maybe that's not as critical. But when you start integrating other people, it's important that everybody understands how it's going to work. The biggest thing, if you take away one thing today, the biggest game changer that Johanna Borrelli implemented in our program is project numbers systems. What we found was that we talked about projects in different contexts. It was the red carpet premiere, the film premiere, the inclusion film premiere, the short film camp. It was called different things. And we didn't have, when we were searching words and looking for projects, it depended on the context that people were using when we were talking about it in the vernacular, and assigning a project number to something gave this unique code that we could search our emails, we could search our Canva files, we could search our InDesign files, and just find everything related to that number. And it removed so much of the guesswork about what we called it, and how we referred to it, whether we abbreviated it or didn't. So assigning numbers to your project might be helpful for you as well. And of course, taking time to enter your notes and your data when we wrap up a project, linking to the native file, whether that's Canva, or if we're an InDesign and Illustrator, packaging and compressing and uploading those final versions. It really saves time if you have to do a handoff or when you're revisiting those projects next year. And then back up your data. We learned that the hard way, the stressful way, and then think about permissions and consistent definitions for your data. And I think that I cut that off when I uploaded, so I apologize for that. Okay, so any questions in the chat, Ernie, that I should address at this point? Okay,
nothing yet. Yeah, no.
Let's do a quick tour, see if it'll let me jump over. Okay, so this is our website, and our I want to make sure it's live. Okay, so on our staff links page of our website, we have a link for staff to go in and submit a creative request. And when they do that, it ends up here. And we'll fill one out. Calspra, and we're going to request some photography. And we'd like it done on the 26th. And we're going to just put some test notes in there. And there's our email. And we'll just say it's human resources and then submit it. What that looks like on the back end for us is if I refresh the page, oh no, it's already here. There's the Calspra ticket, right? And so these are all the requests that have come in. You can see what day they were created, and they sit here until we can actually start working on them. So we meet as a team and we assign them. We go through what the requests are. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger.
Jen, do you want to close that box out at the bottom right?
Oh, I'm sorry. My Zoom window was over it. I didn't see it. Sorry, guys. Thanks, Ernie. So you can see kind of the different requests that have come in and the project numbers that get assigned. So this is school year 25-26, and the project number that's automatically assigned in our system is 0229. Monday.com, for reference, worked for us because it was anywhere from $9 to $19 a month per seat. So we found, and we could do 3 seats, we could do 4 seats. And so it was not a big capital investment of $10,000 for us to use this software, and we could customize it for scratch. So we built this from scratch, but there's lots of templates I won't go into today for the sake of time. I'm happy to meet offline and do a deeper dive into Monday if you guys are interested, but we're going to do the 10,000 foot tour today because of time. So we create different sections. Once we assign the groups, assign the work, we look at them. Sometimes we say, yeah, actually, we don't have the bandwidth for that. Maybe we can support you in other ways. So we talk through it, we make the assignments, and then we move them to whoever they're assigned. We keep some resources and templates here for people to reference when they need them. And then this is our actual board and what we're working on right now, and some of the notes. So you can see here, we can customize the type of work that we're doing. So we've created all of these different things that we can create for people, and we track those. We'll look at that on the backside. And then we have customized where these status. So this project is on press, or there's information needed, or it's ready for final approval. And so we use these tags to kind of let us know where things are in the process. And we move them back and forth to each other's boards and put notes in there. And so, Karin, is this a good ticket you think to look at?
Yes, it has a good.
Okay. So we might go back to this ticket too, but these are all the notes pertaining to the project that we paste in. We don't have it automated, but there are some automations in here. So when we get a ticket, Monday.com creates an automation. There's a lot of communication. This is a big project, but when we get a ticket and it's assigned, it creates an auto-generated project number that this is probably a duplicate off of another ticket. So this was a pre-production meeting we'll probably circle back to later, but you can see kind of all of our notes and assignments here. Let me see if I can find another one with an automation for you guys to see. While I'm looking at that though, you can also see that we can tag what department asked for it, what SCO priority area it's aligned with, who the project manager is, who the production person is. Those might be different. And then all of our files are here together. So this is maybe some drafts and different versions that we've given the team to look at and choose from. So all of our files for these projects are kept right here in the ticket. So this was what the department submitted to us as an idea, and this was the final piece for a background for a tent that they wanted to use. So so we keep all of our files in one place and all of our notes in one place. I think this one might have an automation in it. So when they submit a ticket and it gets assigned, this email here is automatically generated, and it tells them what their project number is. And it asks them, any communication about this project, please reference this number. And Jennifer Leonard is your project manager, and we think we're going to have proofs to you by March 21st. And it's all automated from the system to set up those communication with the person who requested it. And then when we get through the process, when we send it for final approval, when we say that it's in department review, they get this final email too that's also automated, that says, hey, let us know if you have any changes in the next 5 days. Otherwise, we think thumbs up, and we're going to close out the ticket. So there are a lot of automations that Monday.com can do to support your work and keep track of things that way. Anything else I missed, Johanna, Karin, Ernie? Wanted to show? We're going to go back to this in a minute, but I'm going to go back to the slide. Any questions about the database from anyone in the group? Okay, great. We'll keep moving on. I'm going to kick it to Ernie. Oops, I'm going to kick it to Ernie and Karin to kind of take on the next piece around project management, collaboration, and planning.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karin, and I do a lot of the graphic design in our department. So I'm typically juggling a lot of different tickets at the same time. And when I came into this position about 2 years ago, I just noticed that there was a lot of kind of wasted time spent going back and forth when I was working on a project, asking for the information that I needed or assets that I needed. And it was frustrating for me, our team, and also for the people that we were our clients, I guess I'd call them. So we decided to put into place a pre-production meeting in order to address these issues. So by reducing that wasted time and frustration, it also helped improve our relationships with these other departments and our colleagues. So a lot of times we will have a pre-production meeting, and it could be really short, but we just try to get all the people involved to come together to talk about the project and to answer some quick questions, which we've also created this tip sheet, which you can see by looking at the QR code. Jen.
He's gonna put the folder in the chat. We've got a bunch of resources we'll put in the chat for you guys.
I'll get that here in a second.
Gotcha. Jen, if you want to, you could go to the Monday board and use that top ticket again. Yeah, the youth development brochure.
Okay.
Scroll towards the bottom of the messages in there. You can see the pre-production notes. I just wanted to
Oh, gotcha.
so I'm going to talk a little bit about the meeting, but when we have our meeting, Johanna will talk about this a little bit more, how she uses AI to capture what we're talking about. And then she sends that out to everybody. And then we also paste it into the ticket so that, which is so helpful for me, because as I'm going back and forth between the tickets, I can just go in there and I could see everything. All the information that I need is right there. So this is just an example of one production meeting that we had, and all the things we talked about and the decisions that we made. So in talking about the production meeting, we created this tip sheet that was in the QR code and in the chat, and that sort of came out of the need for Johanna and I to start leading more of the pre-production meetings, because Jennifer just couldn't be at every single meeting. So we created this, and it was just sort of a reference point for us to use when we were meeting with people. And it's a document that has a lot of information on it, but it's really flexible. I usually open it up before I have a meeting, just to kind of figure out what I'm going to be talking about and the questions I'm going to be asking. And I refer back to the ticket just to kind of see where I'm going. So I don't always ask every single question on here. And this is great, because the more I do it, the less I have to reference this document, just because it becomes just easier to do. Let's see. And this is also a great thing to have, because if anybody at our team needs to step in to lead a production meeting, we have a document to refer to. And also, if we had somebody new coming to our team, that we have this document. And then also, if anybody is asking about why we have this process, it shows why we're doing things. And this tip sheet directly lines up with all the things that we needed in our production notes, so that I make sure that when I'm doing a production meeting, that I'm referencing these questions. So because we're using AI to record things, so I need to make sure that I'm saying, this is our objective, or this is our goal, or the creative direction we want is, because it'll all be captured. I think, oh, and Jennifer also talked about this, but the project number, we always reference the project number when we're talking about a pre-production meeting. And as the graphic designer, I use that same number when I'm saving files, like in Canva or InDesign. And because I could easily do a search, I could go into Canva and I could search that project number, and it just pops right up. So it's just really important to have that system in place. Monday generates the number, and then we just use that number for everything. And it makes things so much easier to find. And Ernie was going to talk a little bit about how he uses this process when he's working on a project.
Yeah, I think some of the projects I work on are very AV related. I'll also do a lot of video production work. Some of the work that I do is annual, kind of the same projects over and over that repeat, every year, whether it's a graduation or a recognition event, something like that. But a lot of the projects are also brand new, and maybe a department has a new idea, or they've got a grant that where part of the requirement has to be fulfilled of doing the video, and it's just a really good way to to break down the project, revisit the project if it's something we've already done, see what worked last year, what didn't work. And because some of these projects are quick, maybe they're, only takes an hour to do, but a lot of the video work can take, very, much longer time to put something together. And so it's a good way to measure the priority of these projects and what we are able to say yes to and what we're able to say no to. I mean, we're department of 4, and I see some of you are only a department of 1. We can't even imagine what that, can be like sometimes and how overwhelming it is. So this helps, us just prioritize some of the projects just by meeting in advance with everybody and, seeing what we will say yes to at any given moment. So.
I wanted to add that it's also a great way to discuss with your client that that do you need a flyer and a video and social media, or maybe you don't. Maybe you only need one of those things, or maybe you need more of the things that you're asking for. So it's great to go through that process to help yourself and them sort of come to those conclusions. I was going to just briefly go over how I would use it if I was if I had a ticket coming in for a flyer. I would have the project overview. Jen, I think this is the previous slide. So my goal would be, staff. I have a project come in that's for a classroom hero flyer. The goal is to have staff recognition and promoting self-care. The objective would be, this is a project that I went through. The objective was to ask staff members to nominate colleagues by September 30th. Our audience was Solano County Office of Education staff members. The distribution, this is one that I think some people are not thinking about. Like, they might want to, I need to always ask, do you want a printed flyer or a digital flyer, or do you want both? So they wanted both. We figured out when the deliverables were needed. So we had a date, August 22nd, but we also need to be thinking about our proofing process. We have a diagram that we've pre-assigned editors based upon the departments who are requesting projects. So I just need to make sure that as I'm working on a project, that I'm allowing time for proofing. And as we're going through on Monday, we assign a proofer, and you can change the status of a project and send them a message. And then we have a whole process. They move it to a board and move it back. So that's a process you'll have to figure out, but that's really helpful. And then as a graphic designer, I have found a lot of times when we're talking about creative, this is a really important conversation to have. Sometimes people have no opinion on what the creative is, but I always like to ask, because it saves a lot of time in the long run, because I might be thinking, oh, this project should have a playful tone to it when it really should be a serious tone. So I want to ask, what does this creative look like to you? Are there certain colors that we have a brand guideline, but are there certain colors that we should be using or avoiding? And what about if we're using photos? I don't necessarily want them to tell me what photo to use, but I need to ask, hey, I'm thinking about using photos of students. Do the students need to be elementary school age? Do they need to be high school age? Or should I be using a photo that has staff members? Do we need to talk about, are these men or women, or certain ethnicity or a certain activity? All those kinds of things. Those are the things that I, when I didn't have the production meeting, that we were going back and forth on, and it takes a long time. So I wanted to ask all those questions and capture it in the notes so I can just hit the ground running after this meeting. And that's it for me.
So for pre-production, when we get the tickets first, are entered into Monday, we look at them, and then I will generally set up a pre-production meeting with the different parties who are going to be making decisions and doing the work. So I work with the creative team, but I'm like the data person, the number cruncher. And so pre-production for me is getting that team together. It's generally going to be a Zoom meeting so we can transcribe the notes. And that has been the biggest game changer for us too. So even now that I attend meetings when they don't transcribe the notes, I just think, oh my gosh, who's taking notes? So we use Zoom. we do the transcription, and then at the end of the meeting, so during the Zoom, you have to continuously save your transcription or you're going to lose it. Learn that the hard way. And then at the end of the meeting, I will copy and paste all of the discussion. I built up my own GPT with the prompts of things I would like it to different order or things I'd like it to say. Karin had touched earlier about the numbering, the ticket numbering. So we try to remember to mention the name of the number of the ticket in our meeting production so that we can have that reference in the notes. But if not, I just type it in. So then I get ChatGPT will extract the notes, make a beautiful document. I just have to go through and kind of tweak some things. It sometimes makes some weird assignments, but they'll give us assignments of who's doing what, and it's great for stuff I would never remember. It's been so good. And then from there, I will copy and paste that into an email to everyone that was in the meeting or anyone that needs to know the information. And then that email, once it's sent out, I take that and put it into Monday so we can all see what was the notes. And so there's some projects we work on starting at the beginning of the school year. For now, we're working on the Educator of the Year, which won't happen until much later, but we're already starting our production meetings. And we're meeting once a month. And I know there's no way we're going to remember everything we talked about the month before. So having those notes in one consolidated place has been super awesome. So the other thing, the planning, so step number 3, it helps us with just determining the things we're going to need. So we will have one ticket entered. For example, the Educator of the Year, it's one ticket, but there's so many steps. There could be 30 steps, 30 things that are needed, and they're assigned to different people. So I will generally go in and assign, or actually I'll create the tickets and then we'll assign them based on whose task it's going to be. But that helps us also with ordering supplies, just general planning, and even just keeping up with the meetings that we have to have every month. And so all of this data does come out later to, I think I'll talk about later, but it does come out to a format that I can extract into Excel so we can get more information from that. So I think that's all I had. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess the final one is the execution of the actual, doing the project, working on the project, and then going back and forth with the drafts, with the school or the department we're working with, making sure everybody's on the same page, getting it reviewed, to whoever needs it, and then making it live for to share out with everybody. Yeah.
Thanks. So a couple of things I'll add to, when it comes to things like creative direction, we kind of create the guardrail. We establish the overall creative direction and brand for the organization, but we can give options within, here's 5 options, pick any one of them, they're all fine. So departments don't get to choose whatever they want. They have to align with our brand standards and the creative direction for the organization, but we can give them some options within those parameters. And it sounds like we're having a lot of meetings, and we don't have meetings for everything. There are a lot of tickets that come in, they're cut and dry. We've worked with these teams before. There's no meeting needed. That's probably half of our tickets. Some of those meetings are a quick phone call, a 5-minute meeting and where Karin asks all the questions she needs to ask right then and there and gets what she needs, and then starts it from there. And even our longest pre-production meetings are 30 minutes tops. And that's for something like a whole back to school kickoff campaign or something that has 50 deliverables, AV, it's a whole show for 450 people, with follow-up meetings for sure. But one thing I would say that is a huge benefit of Monday as well is that once we create the master ticket that Johanna was talking about, she can just duplicate that one ticket, change the type and change the assignment and send it on its way. So we're not creating work for the work. It's a real kind of quick process that helps us keep track of things. Any questions before I move on to the next section? Okay. Sorry, we're going so fast, but we're covering a lot today. So I think as resources and budgets get tighter in communications as professionals, we just need to get better and better and better at conveying our value and the work that we're doing. And so a tool and data really kind of helps us do that. If we think about communication and PR from the lens of no goal, whether it's in your LCAP, whether it's a superintendent priority, where it's a school mission or priority, if it involves a human behavior, it cannot be achieved without a communication plan of some sort between the goal on paper and the actual goal being achieved. So if we're looking at communications that way, it is fundamental to the business, right? Just as important as HR, PR, payroll, curriculum and instruction, right? And as districts are moving really into the FACE realm, that family and community engagement realm more and more, how are we supporting those frontline teams with our communication in FACE initiatives across the state as well? So can we collect data that reinforces the understanding that PR professionals amplify the efforts of each department or each school or each initiative? And can we show that the goals and objective for the whole organization are achieved, furthered, and that student outcomes are improved by our work? And so we're going to look at the data to kind of how we might show that. We talked about that a little bit. When we make an ask for equipment or budget or resourcing at a time, especially at a time where things are really spread thin and there are cuts, we have to be very proficient in conveying why and how we impact student outcomes, how we drive those educational outcomes. And so we can also identify our workload imbalances, bottlenecks, how we're showing clear reports to leadership and those sort of things. But think about these elements when you're collecting data and your day-to-day work. And again, this is just a quick toggle in a change. We're supporting this initiative. It takes us about 2 or 3 seconds because we recognize that you've got so much work to do. If you're over here working in this database all the time, you're not getting the work done that you need to do. So how are you setting up a Google form or something that's a drop-down menu? You can select it and move on, that sort of thing. Johanna, you want to talk about how you extract data and pivot tables?
Yes, we're very lucky that well, number one, I came from the business office, so Jennifer's lucky because I know how to do Excel, and
Out of trouble.
so basically, Monday has a way to export any portion of the database that we would like. So at the end of the fiscal year, so June 30th, we're closing out tickets and just consolidating all our information and trying to make sure that everything was tagged properly. And once we get that all done, I export everything into Excel and I can run pivot tables. And then, sometimes things don't work out quite well, or we modify things during the school year. So there is some flexibility of how we can change what data we've collected. But what's important is Jennifer did a presentation for our board, and we were able to let them know we did 763 tickets in the 24-25 fiscal year. And it's broken down by our highest demand. So you can see that social media posts were our number one. That's actually by far a number one. Let's see. Yeah, I think we can also do the any of the data we collect, I can make it into a field that we're counting. So we could do it by our priority areas. So for SCO, we've identified these priority areas. So the number one was the community awareness and outreach. And then we can also identify, I think the next one is what's the next one, Jennifer? Okay,
Program.
it's our program. So we identify which programs we're supporting, and it either at the start of the ticket or sometimes maybe at the end of when we realize it was actually something a little bit different, we can modify that. And we also can break it down by the number of tickets assigned per person that you've completed. We do have a way of tracking time, but I don't think we've really implemented that because one ticket of a flyer doesn't necessarily equal the ticket that Ernie does on video production. It's counted as one, but the time spent doesn't quite correlate. So that's part of our evolution of tracking.
Yeah. This has been really helpful. the board requested that we come and present. There's, board members have to be good fiscal stewards, and they have to really have a deep understanding about where there's approving allocations outside of the classroom. And so this really helped us show that we are really embedding and collaborating with all of our teams, all of our departments across the organization, and helping them further their outcomes for students. We didn't go too far into the weeds, but there are other ways that we, of course, can measure outcomes and as well. But data is a good place to kind of frame that conversation, either with your board or your superintendent or your supervisor.
Jen, there's one question, or maybe Johanna could answer it. One question in the chat about does a project get included in more than one priority area? For example, communications in the department area that requested it.
I think we generally pick one, whatever's the best fit.
We used to tag them multiple if they were relevant, but we found the data extraction on the back end was very cumbersome. And so we choose one. And then we have a guideline sheet that helps everybody, because it can be subjective, right? It could be college and career readiness. It could be youth voice, or, so we kind of created a standard for all of us to assign them to. So we're kind of on the same page. One of our takeaways, you saw our biggest was community engagement, outreach, partnerships. That tells me that that's probably too broad, that we need to kind of further define that. If more than double our tickets are in there, that I probably should further refine those definitions for this year. So we have a clearer understanding of what that might entail. And so any other questions, Ernie, in the chat?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. So we're looking for things to solve, right? How do we stay organized and keep all of your notes and your assets, communications in one place, and know where your projects are at? I know that if I've moved off and I'm waiting for a department to look at a proof and it's going to be a couple days, I've moved on to 2 other production projects. 3 days later, I couldn't begin to tell you what that project was about. So going back to the notes is really helpful. We are the experts in photography and I don't mean we as SCO, I mean we in this room as communication professionals. We are the experts in the strategy and the photography and the copywriting. And so how do we focus all of our time in the areas of our expertise and less of searching through emails and going back and forth with what about this picture? Or how do you like this picture? Or, all of those changes that really create bottlenecks. We talked about scaling. Start small if you're just getting started with some sort of system, and then make changes gradually, because your process will change as you evolve as well. Improve communication, right? This has been a great tool for us to create better rapport with our colleagues. For the most part, I think for a lot of people who, especially with Canva, the flyer that somebody makes to them looks just as good as ours, right? They aren't maybe thinking about topography and hierarchy and structuring your key message points and negative space and balancing and protecting your logo parameters and all those other things, right? Those don't exist because that's not their area of expertise. And nor should they know those things. But so to them, their flyer looks the same. And so it can be frustrating when you're implementing brand standards for your colleagues. Why can't they just do it themselves and move on? So what we're finding is it's helping us build rapport and bridge relationships, but it's also, as we're walking them through these questions, organically our colleagues are saying, oh, there's more to communications than what most people perceive, right? There's thought about distribution, there's thought about strategies and our tactics. If it's going to be made for social media, we're going to shoot it this way. If it's going to be made for a captive room of 200, we're going to shoot it this way. Those sorts of things I think really help kind of organically convey the expertise in your work as well. And so we talked about data-driven decisions, and then always being open to improvement, right? What does your data need to tell you? How do you need to improve and pivot and change and just continually grow? And a database can certainly help you do that as well. So I think we're at the end.
Yeah, we got a couple questions in the chat. I can just
Okay.
read them off to you really quickly. Okay.
I'm going to stop share, and actually you can read them off, and then people can just raise their hands and
Oh, okay.
ask.
All
Oh, you know what I'll do? So people can, well, the slide deck is in there. We sent you the link to the slide deck, and all of our contact information for each one of us is in the slide deck, and you're welcome to also reach out to us, email us for anything more. So Ernie, why don't you read off the questions, and then after that, people can raise their hands if they've got any questions.
Sure. All right. So first one is, could we see the guidance used to identify how categories are chosen?
Yeah, I can add that to the chat.
Okay.
Like our college and career rating. Yeah, I can add that. That's a document. I'm happy to pop in there.
Next one was, this process is assumed that that everybody uses the ticketing system. How do you get staff to buy in using the system versus them taking the initiative and making their own? That's
a whole other seminar, but we implemented brand standards this year, and man, was that hard. It took us like a year and a half, I think, to really implement it, because we decided that it was encouragement and coaching, that they would email us and we'd say, great, I'll go ahead and make a ticket for you now. And for any of your future requests, there's a link right on the staff links page, and you can just create your ticket, and it'll move you to the top of the list. And so kind of meeting people halfway. We have the executive assistants across our organization support projects as well. Like Johanna, anyone who's assigned to Johanna, she meets with them monthly and just says, hey, how's it going? What's up with your tickets? Do you need any help or support? She just checks in with them and kind of coaches them on the brand standards. Like, nobody's going to read your brand standard guide, no matter how great you think it is, like, or how many times you roll it out. And nobody really wants to be told, oh, it's on page 17 of our brand standard. It's great to point to it, to support a conversation, but we tried to do that through relationship building. And I will say Karin and Johanna are way better at that than I am. That is their forte. They're really great at connecting with people. It is a guiding principle of our organization as well. But to answer the question, I think we had to go slow to go fast in that regard, to kind of transition. Karin, Ernie, Johanna, I know you guys are really living that. Anything you
We
want to
go to
add to
their
that?
go to their staff meetings, the different department staff meetings. So we'll go to Ed Services and let them know, and then we work in the building with most of our people who are asking for stuff. So we're constantly in contact with them.
And I would also add, if somebody sends me an email, hey, can you do this? I'll just literally send them the link and say, I'm glad to, but please submit a ticket first.
And that works for not just for, we use this not just for internal, our scope departments, but we also partner with other districts throughout the county. And so we'll also defer them to fill out, once they contact us, to fill out the ticket and take the, do the same process at that point.
Yeah. It's a lot of coaching and training. And when I was by myself at SCO, right before I had the opportunity to work with these amazing colleagues, I found that I'm either meeting with people or talking with people or doing the work, or, it's hard to balance all of those things, right, when you're one person. So one thing that worked for me was and it's also difficult because when the superintendent needs something, that's what's on your calendar today, right? But protecting big chunks of time for production might be useful, because it's kind of challenging to jump in and out of creative projects and know where you get a workflow, right? Whether you're writing or you're designing or, and so protecting big chunks of time for yourself, so you're not hopping in and out of meetings, might also kind of help resolve, help you find 20 extra minutes to connect with people that day. Any other questions, Ernie?
There's two more. They're both along the same lines about using Google Drive. Do we use Google Drive for any of this? Is there a way to adopt this with Google, with the Google Drive? Yeah.
We do have Google Drive that we store files and assets in. We couldn't really figure out how to link. I mean, we could. Initially, we thought about creating a Google form where they put in the request. And then once the assets were uploaded, paste the hyperlink to the Google Drive location into the sheet, so you could get to your assets quickly in the ticket and back and forth. I don't know if there's a better way, and if there's anyone on the call who knows a better way to answer that question, please chime in. But that's how we did it for a while. Just having a system in Google Drive and then linking in the ticket to the folder for that project.
That's
and then Canva changed everything for us again,
That's what I was going to add in the little conversation area where we keep notes. We would cut and paste. Hey, this is in this Google Drive folder. I saw that there was a question about Google Drive, using Google Drive. There is a section in there. I was just looking at it for a folder or an asset that has a description. You can cut and paste like your number, what the ticket number in there, that because when you do a search you could look that up. So that's one way you could link your assets.
Thanks, Karin. Next question.
Last one is, what if your district already has a ticket management system? Let's see, but it doesn't necessarily fit in well to the needs and requests for communications.
Yeah, that's tough. So your organization, I don't know if the bottleneck is, finance, if it's your IT's policy that what can be used or accessed on your devices, those sorts of things. When I first started, I just paid $9 a month for Monday myself out of my own pocket because it was worth it to me to have the $9 and just go online and have that access. And then I had something, as long as I wasn't violating the organization's policy, then I had something to show, to say, okay, here's how I'm using this, and here's how it works, and can I spend $190 a month or a year to have this? But I would, and Monday ranges, $19 a month is the pro plan. And so seats aren't too expensive. And so that's a tough one. If it's possible to maybe request a pilot, that might be a good way to approach it with your teams. I have this low cost thing that I want to pilot. Can I have 6 months to try this out? Any other suggestions from the group? No, good luck. That's a tough spot to be in, though. I know organizational change can kind of be slow sometimes.
That was the last question. Yeah.
Thank you,
There's
guys.
There's
Oh.
one from Cherie that just popped in. I wonder if IT can build out more on the ticket system. Yeah, maybe. That's a good.
Or
That's a good point.
yeah, Zendesk. Yeah, because our IT department also uses Zendesk as well. So yeah, I mean, we're all fairly familiar with the ticketing systems in general. Yeah.
Yeah, Asana. I have colleagues that use Asana and like it a lot, and that's part of the Microsoft world. That might be something your organization's already using that could fit and be customized as well. Thanks for all the questions, you guys, and thanks for being here. We really appreciate the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Jennifer and team. You guys were fantastic as expected. I learned a ton. And I hope that everyone else did too. And I do like your suggestion for the Google Drive. I actually use something like that for the CalSPRA newsletter. where I kind of keep the content in the folders, and then I have a spreadsheet that, like, for each issue, what we're doing, and then you can kind of in sheets tag people to do it. It's not as lovely and sophisticated as Monday, but it does get you what you need at a bare minimum.
Yeah.
I want to preview a couple things that are coming up for CalSPRA. I'm going to put them in the chat so that you're aware. The most important one is actually coming up on the 22nd. That will be the last day for you to submit a session idea for the conference. So Jennifer and team, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with for this year's conference. We will be in beautiful San Jose, California from March 11th through the 14th. But please don't feel like you have to be as seasoned, that you have to be a big team or anything like that. We are always at CalSPRA looking for a variety of sessions from a variety of voices. So even if it's your first few months in school PR, you have a valuable perspective. You can share with us what it's like to start into this crazy field, and some of the things that are lessons learned for you, or even have an outsider's perspective on some of the work that we do. And we are looking for folks from all different kinds of department areas. So maybe you do a podcast, maybe you do the design or the videography, or you're doing the strategic planning and you want to cover a case study on a project that you worked on. And by the way, they don't all have to be success stories. Sometimes we learn the most from the things that don't work out. Jennifer, I love that you started this with, like, these are the things that we learned, with the stories about, sometimes you learn them in the, most challenging way possible, but that's kind of how it is sometimes. So please do think about submitting something. We will be open until September 22nd at midnight. I look forward to seeing all the sessions. And then you'll see there are lots of other wonderful opportunities to come and learn. On October 6th, for example, Karin is our CalSPRA Communicator of the Year, and she's going to be presenting her media relations session that got really high marks. These webinars that you'll see as conference callback webinars, the reason that they are brought back is because they were so highly rated in the initial conference. And if you've been to a CalSPRA conference, you know that you usually have 6 or 7 options every single time period. So it's really hard to see all the things that you want to see. With that, I will say thank you again, Solano team. You guys knocked it out of the park. You gave me so many great ahas. And to everyone else, have a great rest of your week. And we will see you soon at another CalSPRA event. Take care.